This happened quite some time ago. In fact, it happened back in July 2013. It was my 13th birthday party, and my friends and I had been to Manchester for the day before heading back to my house for a sleepover. A couple of them had stayed over before, but some hadn't, so I wanted to make a good impression. We all decided to sleep downstairs that night, as there wasn't enough room in my bedroom. We gathered our sleeping sheets in the living room floor, watching cheesy rom-coms and eating junk food until around 1 AM, so we decided to hit the sack after a third movie. We turned off the lights with the exception of one. And although we didn't like to admit it then, we were a little afraid of the dark. It's a common thing to lie awake and chat even after you said you're going to go to sleep. After all, it was a sleepover. We were in the middle of whispering to each other about who we thought our celebrity lookalikes were when we heard a loud knock on the window, cutting through our conversation. "What was that?" said Emma, one of my friends. "It's probably just me dad playing a prank or something," I said, although this whole situation was kind of freaking me out. My dad had done this type of thing before, so I assumed it must have been him. We were beginning to calm down when suddenly another forceful knock came upon the door. This made some of my friends scream. I assured everyone that, like I'd said, it was probably just my dad being goofy. So I went over to the window to catch him red-handed. The curtains were closed, so I had to pull a section of them back to see who was outside, and as I did, I came face to face with a man who was most certainly not my dad. This man was bald with very thin eyebrows, and he was missing a tooth. He was sort of hunched over and he looked at me with widened glassy eyes. I immediately screamed and closed the curtain. At this point, my friends and I were pretty hysterical, and Emma began visibly shaking in fear. My parents were upstairs, so instinctively I ran up to find them. As soon as I got upstairs, my mum was talking to someone from her window. I didn't quite catch the conversation, but she told me what had happened soon after. She said that she'd heard the knocking, and when she looked out of her window to see who it was, the man looked up and asked her if she had seen a friend of his. He kept asking for him over and over. "Have you seen Paul? Where's Paul? Has Paul been here?" Of course, my mum said she didn't know anyone named Paul. Eventually, she had to ask him to leave us alone, as he just kept wandering around our driveway, so I went back downstairs to calm my friends down. In retrospect, I feel bad for leaving them alone down there when some weird stranger was on our property. We all settled back down after that. However, my mum's maternal instincts kicked in. She wanted to make sure he was gone completely, so she left briefly to go around the block in a car to make sure he wasn't still in the area. The street was dimly lit, impractical streetlights, so she had to put on her high beams. Now, as she was driving, she saw someone cross the middle of the road. Thinking it was just a kid, she kept on driving until the man who was at her window appeared again. But this time he practically jumped in front of my mum's car. My mum quickly slammed on the brakes, but before she could confront him, he disappeared off into the night. We never found out who that guy was or what his true intentions were. Thankfully, we never saw him again.